For the Lifeboat Academy, the piece of property that one branch of the Lifeboat Academy is working to secure through fundraising. And I have been involved with the Lifeboat Academy for many years, even before it was called the Lifeboat Academy. And I am curious to see how we all work together to figure out how multiple people during office hours works. So over to Jen.
Hello,
Over
everyone.
to Ronnie. Oh, never
Yes,
mind.
over to Ronnie. Yes.
Okay. I am most interested in I'm interested in the interest we're getting around the tools that we use for collaboration and how we can share them with more people and how all of that can work. And over to you, Jen.
Right. Yes, I'm Jen, and I came across the Lifeboat Academy a few months ago, and you'll hear more about that later. Right now, I'm sharing that I'm most interested in how we're building a model of resilience. As you know, it's at the person, place, and community level. And lately, I've been thinking about it more at the community level, especially when there's been a lot of expressed interest in joining the Lifeboat Network. And so I'm interested in how we can build on that. So over to Tricia.
Thanks so much. I'm Tricia. I am coming here just kind of very much with beginner's mind. So curious to just hear what's going on and just, yeah, see things in action. So beginner's mind, that's my place of entry. Thank you.
And over Loki.
Hi, I'm Loki. So I'm very much new to this. I was introduced to the Lifeboat Academy by another farmer recently, and so this is my first time actually engaging with any of you. And I think so. I'm very much here to learn. And what attracted me is, as a farmer, I'm very much committed to farming and creating with community. Nice to meet you all. Over to Ben.
Nice to meet you too. And hopefully you're in the right place. That resonates with what we're all about too. And what am I? Actually, I think my attention right now is, yeah, it's in the network. It's kind of confused, or there are lots of pieces and parts to what we're doing at the person, place, and community level. It also means that we're simultaneously thinking about this chunk of the earth, this particular property and how we secure it, but then we're also thinking about how we are engaged with a wider network of people working in place. So it's always interesting to figure out how to balance those, you know, the here now and the connectedness it's always a bit of a challenge. So we're going to start with a quick update on what we've been working on, and just to kind of give you a sense of what we're talking about when we talk about lifeboats is a lifeboat is a personal place-based resilience network. It really is about people, and the people. Well, actually, we are trying to embody what we think of as the indigenous way of being, which is the land and the people are one. And the land and the work that we do together on the land are kind of inseparable. And so a lifeboat is how we bring together the people in a place and to work together for our mutual benefit and our mutual resilience. And we see ultimately a fleet of lifeboats, all that stay connected. So each lifeboat being unique to its own community and its own location, but figuring out ways that we share the learning and the social support and the resources to the extent that we can across the network so that we're all stronger. And so we're going to cover a couple different areas of things that we've been working on. And one, of course, is outreach. And so I'm going to pass over to Ronnie to give us an update there.
Awesome. So last week we had our first info session for reaching potential timeshare croppers, which is one form of investor that we have. And there was a good number of people there and lots of great questions. And interestingly, there was a lot of question and discussion about the process sociocracy that we use for governance and decision making and conflict resolution and all of those things. And so it was just a really cool, interesting thing that even we were there to talk about investing, and then there was also this interest on the side. So it was cool. We have refined our plan for reaching out to foundations for larger amounts of funding. We've put together our elevator pitch, if you will, and a one-pager document that is soon to be finalized. So those are going to start going out to folks that we have identified as potential connects to, oh, nice, there it is, to funders. We've also launched our outreach phase 2 campaign, which consists of emails to our lists through MailChimp and social media posts with blurbs and memes and event promotion and things like that. So that is ongoing. If you are on our email list, you will be receiving those. And in terms of next steps, we're looking towards arranging more info sessions. We have a few different partners of the project who are already potentially going to host for us. We're also requesting letters of support from key individuals and organizations that we work with around the themes of farming and climate and ecology and water and all of those things. We're requesting introductions to foundations, as I mentioned. If you or anyone you know is connected to a foundation that might support a project like this, please let us know. And we have homework to do for finishing our website, which has been a fairly long process. So hopefully we will get around to that soon so that we can have our website finished in addition to the help desk, which is already up and running. So over to somebody.
Over to
Back
me.
to you. Yeah.
Back to me. So talking about the network part of what we're working on, as Ronnie mentioned, we are working with a number of partners, some who are specifically, we're trying to bring them into the Lifeboat Academy, and some who we are working with as the Lifeboat Academy, and or as individuals. So one of the things that we offer are navigation sessions, and we have now done 2 navigation sessions for Earth Regenerators, which is probably part of the reason why Tricia is here. And they were, I think, very warmly received, and you know, further confirmation that it's a process that seems to work well and is shareable. We've also 2 farmers that we've been hoping to sort of convince to come in and join our Cam and Tasha, and we've been going back and forth with them a little bit, trying to figure out if there's a fit, how there could be a fit, which has been it's useful because it's also, we are always seeking everything that we're doing, we think of as an experiment, and it's always a work in progress. And so we're always looking for how people can offer their perspectives, their knowledge, their experience in a way that we can get it to work better. And ultimately, that's the experiment, is how do we work well with each other to maximize our quality of life within a sustainable footprint, where the ecosystem, it's a food producing ecosystem more than it's a farm. And how do we work well with each other to use the resources that we have for everyone's benefit. We've also, as part of our establishing the network and some of the support services, we've been having regular office hours. There's office hours every day of the week, of the work week, Monday through Friday. And people have been using them. People are showing up and scheduling time on the office hours, which has been really encouraging. And this last week, we had a great meeting with Pamela Woodlands, who's also involved with Earth Regenerators and is local to us, kind of. She's on the next over Big Island. And really exciting conversation with Pamela about just a number of different potential ways that we can both support some of the work that she's working on, and she can connect us into some of the networks that she's working with. There's also, we've been working with the Regenerate Cascadia Activation Tour. The tour has recently started, and we were going to be a stop on the tour. We are not no longer going to be a stop on the tour. We just were over capacity trying to do fundraising and things that we needed to do to be able to accommodate. And so the tour is ongoing, and coming up in November will be an online summit, like a 10-day online summit, and we'll be actively participating and hopefully shaping how that summit goes. And in terms of next steps, we still have some work to do cleaning up our CRM system. As more and more interest is coming in, it's becoming more important for us to get efficient at being able to track requests and conversations and make sure that things don't fall through the cracks, or to minimize that as much as possible. So there's some cleanup work there. And we're continuing with office hours. And again, we've got people signed up for different office hours this week, and we're really excited to see, what can come from that. So next up, we want to talk about some comings and goings. So I'm going to pass it over to Roland for that.
Okay. So we've recently had a Gumboot boot camp with a participant named Sandra. And part of the Gumboot boot camp is a 10-day period where someone interested in the work that we're doing can come and experience. So we did a debrief of that lovely visit. There's an individual named Brandon who is interested in, who is going to be coming and staying with us for a while, and in part to help with winter housing for him. And also he's very interested in the work that we're doing as well. So it's sort of a modified boot camp. And we are also preparing for a period of transition. The Lifeboat Academy writ large is meant to be both iterative and also experiential. Jen mentioned that she has heard of us a few months ago and has been with us for several weeks now, and to experience what it's like to work with the Lifeboat Academy, and has jumped in where she can and participated in these online discussions. And we're very grateful for her for that. She's going to be transitioning into another part of her life in the coming week. So we wish her good luck with that. Ronnie, who is one of the backbones of the Lifeboat Academy, is going to be continuing interesting work with the Lifeboat Academy, because we've always intended to build several lifeboats that are interconnected. Ronnie is going to be returning to her home state of Texas and working with us from there. We are very appreciative to them for the work that they have done as part of the Lifeboat Academy, and we're very grateful that they are interested and engaged and want to continue to work with the Lifeboat Academy and to bring it in different parts of the world. I think that's it for me. So I'm going to pass over to Ben.
Well, and we think we've basically covered everything. We just to kind of recap, this week we will continue the work that we're doing, reaching out to foundations. Specifically, that is, when we have different, as Ronnie kind of mentioned, that we have different kinds of investors that we're looking for. Timeshare croppers are people who want to actually be here on the property, get involved. Timeshare croppers and farmer caretakers are the people who are living and working on the property, who are also willing to invest in ultimately owning their fair share of the commons. We also are looking for fair share sponsors, who are people who have the means and the ability to invest to make spaces available for other people who maybe don't have the financial means right now, but have the interest in working directly with the land. And we're also seeking social mortgages, who are basically, they would provide bridge financing. The fair share sponsors we see as long-term partners, that they're investing for the long haul and they want to be part of it. They're just making the space available for others. The social mortgage holders are in it for the short term, and they're willing to put a bunch of money up front that'll allow us to take the time that we need to develop the relationships to find the right people who want to invest more permanently in the commons. So we're going to be reaching out to the larger organizations and individuals who might be able to cover us in the short term. So as Ronnie said, if you know anybody, if you could make an introduction. We're not looking for, I've heard of an organization. We've heard of lots of organizations too, but if you actually know somebody, if you have a person that you can connect us to who would be willing to talk with us, and you could make that introduction, then that we'd be very interested in that. And we're also trying to gather, we're calling our sweat equity seekers. So either timeshare croppers or fellow farmers who would like to own a part of their footprint, but maybe don't have the cash right now, but are willing to work for it over time, or to pay for it over time. We want to document that interest because we think it's going to be relevant when we go to the potential social mortgage holders. So you probably, if you're on our mailing list, you'll probably be receiving an email soon saying, how many shares would you buy if you could? And scheduling and advertising additional info sessions, as Ronnie was mentioning. And likewise, if you would be willing to invite people in your network to one of our info sessions or to sponsor one on your own, we can do them by Zoom. So sponsorship is really quite light. We provide all of the structure, and you just provide the introductions. And we're also going to be working on our website homework, which always seems to kind of slip to the bottom of the list, but needs to get done. Onboarding Brandon and keep it on with our office hours and our routine outreach. So that's the update. And now it's question time. So what questions do people have? What do you want to know more about?
I also wanted to add that if there's anything that you would prefer not to share in a group setting, that we can also set up one-on-one time to be able to talk through anything that you'd like to. So I just wanted to add that.
Trisha, do you have something?
I have a couple of questions, but prior to the questions, I actually just want to share, because I've been receiving your emails for maybe about a month now. And I'm just finding it, wow, just so incredibly refreshing how organized you are. Like it might not seem it from your side of things, you know, but as somebody who's receiving the information, it's like, wow, there's a level of clarity in all of this and a level of flow that just makes it very clear. But also, I think, you know, when you're talking about the Lifeboat Academy and actually, like, you know, having, you're really providing a model, I believe, for many people to be able to look to and be like, oh, this is a way that you can step out of what is traditionally kind of looked at and invited in. So I just wanted to share those kudos right there because they're really well deserved. And I know for myself, It's just been a delight to be like, oh, that's interesting and that's interesting. I guess I do still have a question about like the Lifeboat Academy as a whole, in that, like, so would Spalding Valley Farms kind of be considered like the flagship lifeboat, and then there would be like other lifeboats? And then the question around that I think is, are all of the lifeboats like bioregionally based or like physically based, or do you have lifeboats as well that are kind of maybe interest based that are virtual? Thank you. Oh, and I also want to know what CFM is, or
RM.
whatever that.
Yeah.
Oh, CRM.
Yeah.
CRM.
CRM.
I'll start with that. That's simple. It's a customer or client relationship management, and it's a database. So basically, it's just a relationship database, and it's just a lingo it's a sort of a startup techie lingo thing. Roland, did you want to answer the question about the relationships? I'm just wondering, you unmuted yourself, so I thought maybe you wanted to dive in with an answer. I'm not putting you on the spot.
Well, I wanted to answer first so that you can then fill in the gaps from my answer. So the answer is yes. I think that essentially you've put your finger on it, that there is no one way that a lifeboat is supposed to be. And that at the same time, the fundraising to purchase the land on Spalding Valley Road on Pender Island is meant to be the flagship first campus. We think it as the first campus of the Lifeboat Academy. That essentially, one of the questions that we ask is, what is a lifeboat for you? So there's no model of what a lifeboat is supposed to be, except that there are some basic principles. For example, that you work with people that are around you, or even virtually, that can help, where you can help each other. It's mutual benefit, where you can help each other to become more resilient in the face of climate change and societal collapse. Mm-hmm. So it can be virtual, it can be physical, it can be, if you're living in an apartment building and you are starting out with your neighbors on your floor, there's all sorts of possible ways that there can be a lifeboat. And the last thing I want to say is that this is also meant purposefully iterative, that because we recognize that the only constant in the universe is change, that we treat everything like an experiment. So even if a lifeboat gets established, a lifeboat is going to change because conditions are going to change. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to help ourselves, we're trying to help others to learn to be responsive to these changing conditions. And ultimately, it's also recognizing that no matter whether or not there's climate change or societal collapse, the things are always changing in life in general. Mm-hmm. So I will pass over to Ben.
That was really complete. I think the only thing that I would add is that what we're offering is process, but it's process that connects to the material world. And for me, that's one of those. So we can have virtual networks, and virtual networks provide a really valuable and useful function, but ultimately we want to, so as Jen mentioned, our tagline is a model of resilience and regeneration at the person, place, and community level. And all three of those are important. And at the person level, it is about that inner transformation work. What does it mean to be personally, emotionally, spiritually resilient? And at the community level, it's how we work together. How do we actually collaborate in ways like, we were talking about on Sunday, about, where there's transparency, we can bring up the hard stuff, but we can still function together. But that place space is also really important, because how do we reconnect with the land and our material reality, when I think part of the problems that we see in the world right now are we've become so ideological, not just in sort of like politically flavored, like not just in terms of having a flag that, you want to defend, but we get lost in our heads so much, we're so out of our body and out of our place. So even though every lifeboat is going to be different, at some point we want people to connect to, resilience is about food, water, shelter, right? So that's part of the bringing people together around those material needs, I think actually helps us build community in a richer way. So any other questions or observations? Loki.
Hi. So I want to preface this with what I've looked at your website and Facebook pages and such. So that's the information that I've gathered. And Cam is the person who reached out to me and introduced me to the Lifeboat Academy. And I'm curious about who does the Lifeboat Academy serve, or who does a particular lifeboat serve? Like, for example, if the situation on Pender Island plays out, like, is it producing food, shelter, clean water for the folks who have invested in that, or is there an expectation or a desire to put that extra food out into the community, whether it's through market sales or donations? I think that's my big question right at this moment.
Just realized I was muted. I will take an initial stab at it. And the short answer is it's not just about the people who are invested in the campus, in the Lifeboat Academy. And at the same time, we're trying to reclaim the commons. And there's lots of different ways of saying something similar. Another way of saying that is we're trying to decommodify the land. We're trying to overcome the idea of private ownership, that it's my land or your land, or, but instead, how do we, at a fundamental level, if we reconnect with the land as the source of our sustenance, sort of the source of life and all of the support we need. In one way, we have to figure out how to remove that, some of those economic assumptions that come with it. And that's actually the hardest part of what we're doing, right? Is figuring out how do we try to make a different way of relating to the land possible in the midst of a global economy that tells us that you just need to maximize your profit, and whose is it and what are you going to get for it, that kind of thinking. So we kind of are trying to turn the model on its head, and instead of saying like how much money can we make or how much food, we care very much about how much food we produce, but I'm going to struggle with this. I hope I'm not making it more confusing, but we're working with something called the Fair Share Footprint. And the idea of the Fair Share Footprint is if you took the world's renewable resources and divided by the number of people on the planet, and we each had our fair share of renewable resources, what would that look like? That's a fair one footprint needs to keep one person alive and support all of our relations. And so that works out to be about 3.5 acres of land. And so what we're saying is this property that we're on, these 47 acres, represents 16 footprints. So it represents what should be able to feed, clothe, warm, and shelter 16 people all in. And we're not putting like a wall around the property and saying that all has to happen on the property. But that's our aspiration, is to work with the land not to force anything on it, but to work with all of our relations on the property to produce an abundant, supportive lifestyle for at least 16 people. But that's not necessarily 16 individuals. So it could be, that's the timeshare cropper idea, is that, and this is where I think I'm going to make it more confusing than it needs to be. We want to produce the food for that many people, and it can be distributed in any way that makes sense, right? We want to feed the farmers. We want to feed the people who are producing the food first. That's one of our feed the farm first. But then hopefully we're able to produce more food than we consume, and we can share that with our neighbors in a way that makes sense. So I'm passing over to Roland.
I figured raising my hand is the best way for me to indicate that there's things that I want to add. Yeah, it can get confusing because we are working it out, and part of what we're looking for is also people who are willing to work it out with us. You know, along the lines of what I was saying before about conditions are always changing, and how do you respond to conditions? So so there's that, and then there's how we choose to work with it in trying to figure that out. So it's not that we're only trying to grow enough food for 16 people to fill their whole diet. That's the benchmark that we start with. And if the land is capable of, if it's possible for us to live, to respect the production, the biocapacity of the land, and produce more food than for 16 people, then why not? You know, so the benchmark that we have is producing a full diet for 16 people. We've scaled that to currently we're looking at developing more the vegetable and fruit part of that, eventually hopefully moving it into working, collaborating with our animal relations for that, and we're employing a combination of different things, different regenerative techniques, permaculture techniques, organic techniques, to be able to figure out what functions here in a balanced way. And in terms of how we come to that, working in a group, we have a series of agreements that we are constantly revisiting to make sure that they continue to fit. And that is agreements on how we work together and how we work with the land, with the property. And there are certain key concepts that are important to us that are within those agreements, and it's iterative and experimental, and whoever wants to join, there's an opening for the different ways in which people can participate in that. And tying it back to not just the land, but to the Lifeboat Academy as a whole, that's extended outwards, where we also want to work with people who may have land elsewhere, who are also working towards similar goals. And ultimately, it is a shared learning experience or experiment.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully I haven't made things more complicated.
And I was going to, just to check in, since we can't see Loki, we can't see your face, I want to check in that you aren't staring at us like we're insane behind your screen. So I just want, is this making any sense, or do you have any follow-up questions?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my own current business, so I'm a seed farmer primarily. My focus is climate adaptable seeds with a focus on protein plants, so pulses. But the food that I grow for consumption primarily goes to community fridges and to my own household, and so Yeah, everything you're saying makes sense to me. I understand that. And yep, I'm good.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, and that's the other, there's a couple challenge, there's a challenge, and going back to the model idea, part of the challenge is trying to figure out, farming is not a money-making activity in North America. So part of the model for the Lifeboat Academy is how do we work within the existing economics in a way. We talk about liberating the land, reclaiming the commons. And partly that is sort of economic warfare in a way. We've got to, we have to figure out how we can kind of fit in the cracks of, of what's possible. And so that's part of the challenge in terms of how does the food get distributed. If we can get the social mortgage holders, right? If we can get the people who will say, here, we got you covered, you just go do good things, then all of a sudden there's going to be so much more freedom in what we can do in terms of how we share the food. And we're also trying to shift to the gift economy. So, how do we put things out there without making money the object, but in a way where the energy comes back and it's a balanced cycle, and we're getting the resources that we need. So, I mean, also, if you're a farmer, like that's how do you actually farm in a way we're doing all of this good in the world, but it's killing us? You know what I mean? It's like, it takes too much of a toll to be able to figure out how to do it in this economic system. So how do we learn to, get that energy flow more balanced? And that's also why we have incorporated multiple income streams as part of the model. So we're not entirely dependent on food production and raw food production as our income. So we're thinking about value added activities as well. And we're thinking about non-agricultural things. So education and, how do we, and making the model of it, making the information available to other people. And so that's also part of the model. Is for us, it's also, we have a plan for, it's built on La Ferme de Bec-Hellouin, which is in Brittany in France. And they have developed a sort of a self-feeding garden system, 60-30-10, where there's a division between pulses and grains, sort of high calorie, starchy food, and the kind of nutrient rich foods. And they're doing it in a way where there's no outside inputs necessary, and it's a perpetual food producing garden. And we're trying to figure out what's that look like here, and can we offer that up to other people? Here, plant this garden, and you've got a whole diet, and it's self-replicating. So where can we share the information and make that available to others as well?
Awesome, thank you.
Any other questions, comments, ideas? We have a couple of heroes that we, La Ferme de Bec-Hellouin is really inspiring in what they're doing. And I think that's the other thing that we're, in terms of the network, is how do we put these things together and test them, and kind of refine the model and say, look what works. This is working. You can do this too. Fisha?
So just another question, this might be covered somewhere else, so excuse me if I missed it, but so in acquiring the farm, that the farm, then what type of legal structure would that go into? And then what type of legal positions, I guess, would the sharecroppers or other types of stakeholders be involved in? I'm curious about that.
I'm glad you asked. It's one of my proudest accomplishments, or one of the things I'm proudest of in what we're doing. So we're establishing ourselves as a B Corp, a social benefit corporation, which is a legal form in BC. It's legally recognized as a separate thing, where the social benefits are written into our articles of incorporation, and we are as legally responsible for the social benefits as we are for any economic profit. And so in perpetuity, the organization and anybody involved in it has to pay attention to our social benefits. And our social benefits are carbon sequestration, food sovereignty, integration of Indigenous ways of knowing, making land available to young farmers, providing examples of effective ways of collaboration. And I think we have a couple others in there. And we also, so it's our articles of incorporation also incorporate sociocracy as our decision-making structure. So there is no majority voting. There's actually a consent-based decision-making structure built into the articles of incorporation. And everything is overseen by the Stewardship Council, which has 16 seats, which represent the 16 footprints, and has sort of 4 different categories. So we try to represent the people who are working the farm, the people who have invested in the farm, the community that is supported by the farm, and nature. And so nature actually has multiple seats at the table. And because it's a consent-based decision-making process, nature has the ability to object to anything, to basically veto anything if it is not coherent with how nature wants things to work. And of course, nature is embodied by human beings, so there's a little bit of a translation that has to happen, but the people who are sitting on the Stewardship Council are there as nature, right? They are sitting there as representatives of the interests of nature. And we're also open. This is, we want this to fit for everyone. We could add the 7th generation in there too. Actually just occurred to me, why don't we put the 7th generation have a seat at the table? Anyhow, so yes, that's our legal structure. It's a B Corp. The articles of incorporation are written and available for review. We're still seeking feedback on everything, but they seem, so far, they seem to be, passing the test. So yes, thanks for that question. Oh, and then the status would be there's actually 4 shareholder types, which, without getting into it too much, basically shares represent our share structure is we have 16 shares, or we have 16 footprints. Each footprint has 100 shares associated with it. So we have 1,600 shares, and that is basically the value of the property. So as you own shares in the project, you directly own your fair share, right? You own a proportion of your fair share of your footprint. So yes, thanks for that question.
I just posted some FAQ videos that we've already recorded that are on our help desk, which address some of that, I think maybe in a bit more detail. I don't exactly remember the specific content of the videos, but if you're still interested, those videos exist. I think every time we talk about it, we share sort of in a slightly different way, so it might be useful to check those out. Also, there's videos on our help desk, so just a plug.
Oh, which is also a good point. I just want to make sure we are recording this, and we're recording it because we, if there's a new question that comes up, we want to be able to parse it out and put it to the help desk. So we just want to make sure that that's okay. So can I get a thumbs up, Loki, if you don't mind this being recorded? And Tricia, good, awesome. Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I also want to say, in terms of learning more specific details about the project, we've got multiple very in-depth documents on our help desk. So if you go to our help desk, which is lifeboatacademy.freshdesk.com, On the front page, there's 3 main sections, which are for lifeboat builders, visiting the Lifeboat Academy, and for timeshare croppers and investors. So if you click on for timeshare croppers and investors, you'll see our prospectus and business plan with financials in a spreadsheet. And our articles of incorporation are drafted and they're up there. And I think there's something else. We have a Prezi that we did back in the winter time that sort of lays things out in a different way. So yeah, there's lots of resources if you're interested in learning more.
And of course, office hours, you're always free to sign up for office hours and or just send us an email. And yeah, and we're just to make it really clear, we are always opening an invitation for you to get involved the way that it makes sense for you. We are here to support developing your own lifeboat and or to come join in helping us develop this one. And because we think it's all to the good. So consider this a perpetual open invitation.
And just to add to that, one of the reasons why we make these types of invitations is that we also recognize the interrelationship between not just us and all our relations, but between the 6 of us here, whether or not we're working together, we're all part of the same system. And the more that we can work together, the more we can help to influence the system to function in a way that we find is more equitable.
Well, I think with that, we can wrap up here. And I don't know, let's just do once more through, give everyone a chance just to do a quick checkout. And so, I don't know, final thoughts for the good of the cause. Over to you, Roland.
I think I just said it. Thanks for being here, and I appreciate the connection. Over to Ron.
Yeah, I ditto what Ben and Roland have said, and we're happy to work with folks in ways that work for them too. So if you wanted to schedule a one-on-one meeting instead of office hours, we're open and available for that. And just let us know how we can be supportive. And we're the Lifeboat Academy and we're here to help. On to Jen. Or I'm not sure, I think.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that was me. And as you heard, I'm going to be tending to other aspects of my life, feeling the call to be with family halfway across the country. And so I'll be tending to that. And I want to just give a lot of gratitude and thanks for my time here and being part of this experiment. It's been phenomenal. And it's not a lot of words to describe it because it really is an experience that is felt. And it's been a great privilege to be able to see all the work that goes on in the background and how it all comes together. And it was really nice to hear Tricia and from others how it looks, how it's received, and ways to be here, to be a part of it too, in whatever capacity. And so I'm really grateful for Tricia and Loki for coming to our update today and asking great questions. And hopefully we'll continue to see you become an even bigger part of this as well. So thank you, and over to Tricia.
Thank you. And yeah, just thank you all. Like, I just find a lot of beautiful modeling taking place here that's very generative for me. It's feeding me on lots of different levels. And also Roland, what you had shared about the almost like, yes, there's like a life form that's created here just by this interaction together, and being able to have that that level of like, wow, beautiful, you know, that with Vicki Robbins from Post Carbon Institute does this really wonderful podcast, what could possibly go right? And I love that question, right? Because it's like, oh yeah, in the midst of everything that's going wrong. And so, yeah, this is something that is going right. And so I'm really grateful to be here, grateful for your generosity in sharing also all of the resources and the experimentation that you're going through, and then allowing that to benefit others. And hopefully that will come back to you as well, and have that reciprocal flow happening in those ways. And yeah, just feeling a lot of gratitude. So I'll leave it at that and pass it to you, Loki.
Well, this is so refreshing. I'm really pleased that I joined today. I'm definitely coming away with a lot more questions, but I'm going to deep dive on the help desk. But yeah, I'm just excited by the prospects of this and what's being built. And I would like to be added to the mailing list, please. Thanks. On to you, Ben.
Oh, well, gratitude back at you. Yeah, it's and one of our sayings here is I take care of myself to take care of you, and I take care of you to take care of myself. And I really feel like energized from this exchange. It's so we were talking the other day about the difference between taking and receiving, and I feel so received. I feel like we're offering something, and I feel fed. So I'm really excited. Thank you for being here, and I look forward to seeing what develops. So with that, I guess farewell, happy Thanksgiving, and we'll look forward to reconnecting soon.
Also,
Bye.
happy Indigenous Peoples Day. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Have a great week. Thank you.